Hello everyone! I am in sunny Lanzarote, a desert island. And as you can see behind me, there's lots of volcanic rocks everywhere because there are volcanoes here. There's a bunch of volcanoes over there. None of them are active, though I think 2 years ago one of them had a bit of activity. But other than that, yeah, it's just volcanic rock everywhere. There's little like shrubs and things here and there. So we have nice little desert flowers everywhere, which is really beautiful. I missed the sunrise, but I did see the early sun, and it was just streaming through the clouds in such a beautiful way. The ocean is just a few minutes walk that way. I'm on a desert island. It's beautiful out here. Even though the weather app says that it's only like 21 degrees during the day, apparently that's the temperature in the shade. And I believe it because when you're in the sun, it's very hot. I'm here for the next month. I'm really happy about that because right now in other parts of the world it is very, very cold, and I am happy to be getting some sun and enjoying the warmth. I'm wearing a sweater right now because it's early morning, but in the middle of the day it gets very hot. So I will not be wearing this sweater later. My last few days in Portugal were lovely. I had a really wonderful weekend in Porto. Again, that city is it's so beautiful, so picturesque, so romantic. Just wandering through the streets is in and of itself really beautiful and an incredible experience. I managed to find areas of the city that I hadn't explored before, but that were still very interesting. The hostel I was staying at, which was not the greatest hostel, I'll be honest. It got kind of comically bad near the end, but it was really well located, and it was in this neighborhood that seems to be sort of like a trendy hipster area. There was a shop that I saw that was selling very like hipster homemade sweaters that had some kind of like interesting elements to it, and they were selling for 150 euros. There were lots of interesting artisans. There was someone that I saw who had a studio where they made all these little like people out of wire, and there was like a whole Ferris wheel, and like, you know, it was really elaborate and cute. I went to an incredible vegan cafe that was just really like good vibes. It looked really nice in there. It felt really nice in there. The staff were very friendly, and I had a wonderful soy latte and a vegan chocolate that was like this artisanal chocolate. It was very good. I also explored, there were a few parks that I explored in more like north of the city that were like really interesting actually. One of them had a beautiful view, and it was many layered, as many things in Porto end up being, especially as you get closer and closer to the river. Things get more and more layered. This wasn't very close to the river, but it was pretty layered anyways, and it had a beautiful view of the city. London has exercise machines in the parks, and it took me a while to start using them, but I actually really, really like them. And because I just like working out outside, and I like the idea of going to a gym, but I don't really like the idea of being in a gym. The gym environment is not the environment I want to work out in, but outside in a park, yeah, totally. So I really enjoy the exercise equipment that you can find in the London parks, and it's actually the same company, the same equipment that you can find in Porto in parks. So I went to different parks and was like working out and enjoying being outdoors. I had I had so many pastries, so many different pastries. Because Porto is like the city of pastries. Maybe all cities are the cities of pastries. Pastries are very common, especially in Europe, I think. So I had a lot of pastries. I went to a lot of parks. In my favorite park, the one that I found a bunch of four-leaf clovers, that I went back there, and it was just before sunset, and there was actually there was an art opening happening. So I went to that, and it was really, really interesting art. It was all very like scribbly, but in the scribbles I could see exactly what was being depicted. You know, like there were certain scenes of Porto that, you know, I looked at it and I knew exactly where that was. So that was really cool. I tasted some like organic, sulfate-free, might have been vegan, I'm not sure, wine called Caveman. In Portugal, east of Porto, there are cave drawings that are estimated at, oh gosh, it's either 200,000 or 20,000 years old, but very old, very, very old cave drawings. I didn't go to see the cave drawings on this past month, but I think maybe on the way back I might see if I can sneak in a trip there, because that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool to see evidence of humans being here for so long. Oh, and there was a really great restaurant really close to where I was staying that I went to a couple times. It was like deserted. I don't know where the people were, because this was the best restaurant that I have been to in a very long time, because not only was it vegan, it also had like kind of just interesting interior. It wasn't like a fancy interior design kind of thing, but there was like a koi fish pond, and there were all of these artifacts from trips across the world, and it was kind of like a cafeteria style with a tray, and then they had all of these different foods, and you sort of like pick, you know, 3 veggies, 3 of these, a bean, some sort of grain. And so it was like macrobiotic vegan food, and everyone who worked there was just the most like beautiful souls. they just radiated heartfelt love, and when you eat the food, you can feel it. You can taste it. You can taste that it is made with love. And that is something that I almost never experience in restaurants, but I definitely experienced in that restaurant, and I loved it. And it was like not too expensive. It was very reasonably priced. And they had the best dessert. Oh my goodness. They had this like, but it was a vegan cheesecake, and it was like, I think strawberry and chocolate. It was so, so good. I could have eaten so many of those. But yeah, I think it was called Suribachi, and the tagline was real food. And it is real food in the way that a lot of restaurants are not real food. So I felt really good going there. I went there twice over the course of the weekend. So it was my restaurant of choice for sure. I also saw there was a fire dancer person that I caught like sort of the tail end of their set. I did some wine tasting. I did some port wine tasting. I had tasted the white, the tawny, and the ruby from the same maker, and I really didn't expect myself to like the white as much as I did. I really liked it. I had never actually had white port before, and it turns out it's very good. Port wine is like the one alcohol that I genuinely really enjoy. I don't know why. I guess because it's so sweet, and it's so like thick that you just have small amounts, so you can really spread out your enjoyment. You know, it's not the kind of drink that you're going to drink quickly, but it is a really enjoyable drink. Yeah, that city is special. That city is magic. I really love it. There were a lot of musicians, a lot of street musicians that I saw that were really good. It seemed like I'd turn a corner and then there was another one. I saw a bunch of them over the course of the weekend. I also, one of them I saw near one of the major churches. I mean, there's a lot of churches in Porto. And I ended up recording the sound of the bells because the bells were like quite elaborate. But yeah, they were playing, I think, Ode to Joy. They played like the whole song with bells. And I actually ended up recording a fair bit of it. So maybe I'll add that recording in here. And yeah, it was just really cool being in that environment, listening to the church bells, climbing up these steep hills, and then resting, drinking some port, listening to incredible music. And I was also like, because the little like patio furniture that I was at, like the table and chairs, were on like this really steep hill, and chairs were not like, they were like little folding chairs, right? So that you lean quite far back, but I was also already leaning back because the way that the hill was, leaning back was even more on the hill. So I did a very slow lean to try and like figure out whether or not I would fall over. And it turns out I didn't fall over. It was just like an extra lean. So it was actually just really comfortable once I relaxed and realized I wasn't going to fall. Yeah, it was like being in a lazy boy. And speaking of lazy boys, at the airport in Porto also has like basically lazy boys. Like a lot of the furniture, a lot of the chairs that you sit and wait in the Porto airport are like lounge chairs. They're like sun chairs, sunbathing chairs, you know, like you're leaning back in them. And so when I went to the airport, it was actually just a really nice, relaxing experience. And then I flew into Madrid at sunset. So as we were landing was like the peak of sunset. So it was really spectacular views flying into Madrid. And then I had just the right amount of time to organize myself, get to the right sort of place, because my flight had been delayed a little bit and sent to a different place, a different gate that was actually very far away. I had to take like a train to get there, and I had just the right amount of time to get there, sort myself out, rest a little bit, read a little bit, and then I boarded the plane and flew into Lanzarote super late at night. And fortunately, the hostel that I was staying at also offers airport travel, like airport pickup for an extra €10, and I thought that's worth the the potential headache that I would be avoiding trying to deal with transit at this time of night. So yeah, I got someone was waiting for me to pick me up and brought me to the hostel. I had a pretty good sleep, and then came out here to Lanzarote, where I'm staying for the next month with my workaway host, who's a fascinating individual. He was a driver for a bunch of like reggae bands in like the 70s, and he was actually just telling me about like driving up through Russia into Moscow and how dangerous that was. So interesting stories. We're having great conversations, beautiful scenery. Couldn't be happier. Hope that you're doing well, and I'll check in with you again next week. Bye.